Hello, everyone. Am I working? Is everything working? Can you hear me? I'm getting dinged. People are like, what time are you going live? Now. Now. Oh, good. I got a yes, so that means you guys can hear me. Good. D says, evening, everyone, and I agree. Want to thank you all for jumping on short notice. It's been a crazy 24 hours for me. Mike, hello, how are you? Purdue RN, nice to see you. Roxana, good evening. Support with Steffa, it's nice to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. Oh my goodness, there's my sister. Wow. We got Boston Christian. Gloria, hello, how are you? True Crime Housewife. Oh my goodness. My husband's phone keeps ringing. It's driving me nuts. Hi, Christy. Yeah, we're trying to stay warm. It's not here yet. Andrea says, I'm here. Hello. Hello, CJK. Stories from the Stone. Hey, Melissa, how are you? So, as everybody probably knows, I was going to do this last night because yesterday was actually Gabriel Fernandez's birthday. But the internet had a major outage. Frontier was out, T-Mobile was out, Sprint was out, and a bunch of other internet carriers were out for over almost 24 hours. So this morning my husband got up early, checked the internet, saw that it wasn't working, and had to unhook my desk because I had to drive 30 miles north to my mother-in-law's to be able to go work today instead of having to take vacation time. And part of the reason we did that is because we are supposed to get a buttload of snow. I'm talking they're saying anywhere from 10 to 22 inches now. So it's going to be a little crazy, and I might have to take an FTO day if I lose power. Vacation day. So we're all hoping that there's no internet outages and no power outages during this big storm that's coming. It's supposed to start anytime now, between tonight and tomorrow at I think 6 p.m. We're only supposed to get like 2 to 5 inches, but then tomorrow night into Thursday is when we're supposed to get the rest. So I'm hoping they're lying. But just want to give a shout out to Dee here, one of our mods. She has COVID for the 6th time. And COVID is no fun. And she just needs to stop getting it. I know. I gotta move to Indiana. You keep telling me that. The husband is not up for that right now. Hello, Trust and Justice. Nice to see you. Just looking to see if I missed anybody in here that came in. Just want to say thank you to everybody for giving us well wishes and telling us to stay warm and be safe. We're going to hunker down. I believe now my husband works where I was just at today in Tomahawk, and I believe his plan is that he is going to pack a bag and he is going to stay in Tomahawk tomorrow. So, yes, Dee, hang in there, get better. We hope you kick this really soon and that you don't get it a seventh time. What? Somebody just said it says 5 p.m. PST time. That's not right. But, hey, Randy. You're stuck in the snow in Wisconsin? Did you actually drive this way? I know you were trying to get up north to your aunt's funeral. Oh my goodness, bunch of family. Good evening, Annette. You've only tested positive for 1 day, but you have to stay home for 14 days. Yes. Oh, you did not come this way. Okay. So, anybody who is in this area in Wisconsin, yeah, stay safe the next couple days. Don't go anywhere if you don't have to. And we'll get through this. So that's why I wanted to go live tonight, is because I don't know what the next couple days are going to bring. And I wasn't able to go live last night because the internet outage. So we are going to talk about... Hey, Cody, WWE fan, how are you? We are going to talk about a precious little boy tonight. Gabriel Fernandez. And I'm going to share my screen here because this little boy is just so precious. Hi, Glitter Bean. How you doing? So how many of you know the story of Gabriel Fernandez? If you know the story, put a 1 in chat. If you don't know the story, put a 2 in chat. And I'm just going to wait for some answers here. Okay, so we have some 2s. Oh, yes. Oh, wow, we got a lot of 2s. And we've got some 1s. Okay. So, wow. We're going to talk about this story tonight because this little boy was tortured beyond belief by his mother and her boyfriend and was killed due to this torture. So there is a documentary on Netflix, and it's The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez. Watch it. It is so heartbreaking. We're going to watch some videos tonight, and basically go through what happened to him. So this little boy was 8 years old. He lived in Palmdale, California. Yeah, Dee, there was a Netflix. It's a series. And I would recommend that you watch it. It's all about the trial, but his whole story is told, and it's just heartbreaking. Very, very heartbreaking. So on May 24th, 2013, Gabriel, an 8-year-old boy from Palmdale, California. Well, it's hard to talk about, guys. He had been abused and tortured over a period of about 6 months. So when Gabriel was born on February 20th, his mother didn't want him. So his uncle and his uncle's partner took Gabriel. I understand, Glitterbean. I understand. So Gabriel's uncle and his uncle's partner took Gabriel in, and they had him for the first few years of his life. Well, then the grandparents decided it wasn't right for this little boy to live with a gay couple. So they took him in, and they lived with him. He lived with them for quite a while, was happy, doing good at the grandma and grandpa's. And all of a sudden, the mother decided she wanted him back because there was money involved with it. She would get extra money each month for having him. This little boy went through so much hell, it wasn't even funny. And in the end, he lived with them for 6 months, and he was killed by the mother and the boyfriend and tortured. They told him that he was gay. They made him wear dresses. They locked him in a cupboard at night in their bedroom. Most of the time he was gagged. Sometimes he had a sock shoved in his mouth. And then there were handcuffs on the cabinet doors so that he couldn't get out. They forced him to eat cat litter. They starved him. They beat him. They burned him. They shot him with a BB gun. They broke out his teeth. They shaved his head after they tore out chunks of his hair. So when I say this is one of the most brutal stories I have ever heard of abuse, I mean it. This little boy was tortured. The mother and the boyfriend were charged with first-degree murder, of course, with special circumstances. And the special circumstance was torture. I can honestly say that my sister Paula and I watched this series and bawled our eyes out. So we're going to get more into the story of what happened to him, but I want you to know that the mother and the boyfriend went to trial. But one of the biggest things that happened in this case is that 5 CPS workers were also arrested. Now, in the end, the judge dismissed the case against the CPS workers. But they were all fired, they lost their jobs, and they were charged for his murder. Now, they didn't go to trial or anything, but that was a first in history that I know of that any CPS worker had been charged with murder. So let's go back to the beginning a little bit. Now that I've kind of given you a rundown of what happened. So Gabriel was born February 20th, 2005 to Arnold Contreras and Pearl Fernandez. Now, Gabriel's biological father was in jail at this time. And so he didn't have any access to Gabriel or anything. He was serving his sentence. He comes in later, and if you watch the Netflix series, you'll see him come in. He actually comes to court, testifies, and watches. They let him watch the court proceedings so that he knows what happened to his son. But as I said, shortly after birth, Gabriel was put in the custody of his great uncle on his mother's side, and his partner. They continued to raise Fernandez for 4 years. I thought it was only 2, but it's 4. In 2009, 4-year-old Gabriel moved to his grandparents due to his grandfather's objection to the same-sex relationship that the uncle had. So he lived with his grandparents until 2012. Then Pearl comes back into the picture, which is the mother. And her boyfriend, Isaro Aguirre. She regained physical custody of him, despite concerns for his welfare. Now, family members went and expressed their concern when she got this little boy, custody of this little boy, and beforehand. So, and I have to correct myself because it says throughout the 8-month stay in the household with his mother Pearl and her boyfriend, it says that he was systematically abused and tortured. And the abuse included regular physical beatings, causing broken bones, being forced to eat cat litter and feces, his own vomit, and spoiled or expired foods. Being burned with cigarettes, being shot with a BB gun in various areas of the body, including the face and groin. He was pepper sprayed. He was forced to wear women's clothing. And, of course, having to sleep bound and gagged in a small cupboard. And having his teeth knocked out with a bat. He does have siblings. And while Gabriel was being abused, his siblings were not. They didn't have the best living conditions, believe me, but they were not abused like this little boy. And the whole reason for the abuse is because they believed he was gay. 8 years old. 2013. It's not like today. You know, this little boy just wanted to be loved. And it's a very, very sad and emotional story. Yeah. So I'm going to go and look here at some of the comments before I go on. Paula says it was freaking awful. Yes. So many allowed this to happen. The county and state, their charges should have been kept against them. The sheriff and CPS, horrific. I wish the family had gone over and removed and hidden him. Yeah. Mike says, that was a great to watch the messed up a lot with the CPS. They dropped the ball. Oh, yeah. And we haven't even gotten into that part. Our kids don't mean much. The system proves this on a daily basis. Inadequate laws, welfare workers, judges, DAs, etc. Yeah. AG says, poor little guy. I think I did watch this on Netflix. Now you are talking about the details. So sad. Rest in peace, Gabriel. Glitterbean says, she is a monster. Yeah. No, the mom and boyfriend are not out of jail. My blood pressure just went up while you read all that. Those people need to be fried. Yes, I agree. Who turned the parents in before he died? Someone must have turned them in at some point. Yes, you are right. So Gabriel had a wonderful teacher. And at first he would come to school and have a few bruises. And she noticed. And she started talking to him because she noticed more and more. And he says, is it normal for your parents to spank you with a belt? And she says, well, it depends on how the parenting style is and everything. And he said, but is it normal for them to spank you with the metal part, with the bar that sticks out? And that's when she knew this was serious. So she called CPS. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, but many times. And every time she called CPS, this little boy would get beaten worse and worse every single time. And now the teacher knows this. She knows that every time she calls CPS, he's not there for a few days, and he comes back looking worse and worse and worse. So it got to the point where the teacher didn't even want to call anymore. But she had to. By law, she has to report it. So each time, I shouldn't say each time, sometimes the social worker would go to the house and only talk to the mother. She wouldn't actually see the little boy. And the mother would spin things and lie and say he's fine. And the social worker just let it be. Now, not only was the social worker called, the police were there. They let it go. They went to some business, and Gabriel was so beat up that people in the business knew that he was being abused, because it was some kind of business like the welfare office or something like that. I can't remember exactly which one, but a man wanted to report it. And his superior said, no, it's closing time. We don't want the extra paperwork. Go figure. So many people could have probably helped and saved this little boy if they would have taken extra time. And actually went and saw this child for themselves, talking about police, CPS. Then you've got the teacher who tried. She did everything she could, but the only thing she could do was report it. And then you had the security guard whose superiors didn't want him making the call, but he did anyways. So the security guard did actually make the call and did report it. And once again, it fell through the cracks and nothing got done. So normally we don't show these types of things, but I need you to know how bad this actually got. And the reason I need you to know how bad this got is because with COVID happening and the isolations, these kids had nowhere to go. They have been beaten over and over and over again. So I'm going to show you a picture. It's not pretty, but it will explain what I'm talking about when it comes to this little boy. So one of the things that happened is that he would write suicide notes. So this is a suicide note that they got. This is a picture of where he was punched in the mouth. But this is one of the last pictures that they took of him. And the sad part is even though this little boy was tortured by his mother, he still loved her. You know, and one of the last things that he did was make his mom a gift. And this is actually the last picture that the teacher got of him. So this was a gift for his mom. This was sitting on his desk when she was notified that he was murdered. There's other pictures that go with it with the MOM. But I just wanted you to show this one because, I mean, you could tell his hands are all messed up. His face, he's got teeth missing, the black eye. They literally had to shave his whole head. It was crazy. Now, this next picture I'm going to show you. So when you have an autopsy done, they do these body charts. Look at all of what's on his body, front and back. BB pellet, bruising, swollen. Some of these are hard to read. Abrasion. He had skin missing on his throat. Bruising. Circular abrasion. Swollen. All of this is what happened on his little body. And these little circular motions here are the BB pellets. So this little boy, who should have had his whole life ahead of him, was brutally murdered and tortured beforehand. So he was... I am going to show you this because I think it's important. I'm not going to play this whole video, but I am going to play a little bit of the beginning of it. I have to stop sharing my screen so I can present and share with audio.
His penis was burned, bruised, and cut. He was being starved to death. He was being beaten. Wasn't allowed outside. Had no toys. No friends. He was being belittled and bullied. Gabriel's last vision was that man over there, standing over Gabriel, beating him to death.
Patami detailed out the disturbing acts allegedly committed by the Palmdale couple, how they beat Gabriel, bit him, burned him with cigarettes, whipped him, shot him with a BB gun, starved him, fed him cat litter, and kept him gagged and bound in this cubby. As for a motive, that Aguirre just didn't like Gabriel and thought he was gay.
The evidence will show that the defendant's nothing more than a bully. He was a security guard who intentionally tortured and abused a helpless and innocent little boy.
LAFD paramedic James Cermak, the first witness on the stand, said he couldn't believe what he saw when he responded to the 911 call of Gabriel in cardiac arrest at a Palmdale apartment back on May 22nd, 2013.
The more you look, the more you saw. It was just unbelievable, the amount of trauma on his body.
Defense attorney John Allen says his client admits to causing the injuries, but that it only happened because Asaro exploded in rage after Gabriel told his mom to leave her boyfriend.
That Asaro has a very hard time handling stressful, chaotic situations. He is guilty of murder, but the special circumstance alleged that he intended to kill Gabriel through the infliction of torture is not true.
This is day 2. Now, the prosecution really painting a picture with the 8-year-old's injuries. His 2 front teeth forcibly removed, ribs that were fractured, burns all over his body, strangulation marks, as well as skull fractures. The jury, many of them not even able to look at these pictures anymore, but the prosecution relentless in trying to prove that Gabriel's murder was intentional.
strangulation marks around his neck. His ankles were swollen. I believe his left palm looked like it was burned. Bite marks, bruises, head to toe, skull fractures.
Every inch of Gabriel was bruised and swollen. His skin was kind of a black and blue mottled color. I remember he felt cold to the touch.
He had cigarette burns on his body, he had bruising throughout his entire body, and it looked like his penis had somebody attempted to cut it off.
And you testified that pretty much every inch of Gabriel's body was covered in injuries. Is that correct?
Correct.
So I don't know if you just heard that police officer. He just said that it looked like his penis, they tried to cut his penis off. All right, let's go back.
An overflow crowd in court today to hear firsthand from an emergency room nurse who treated young Gabriel when he was taken to the hospital after being beaten unconscious.
These are multiple injuries of different types. There were abrasions, there were open wounds, there was bruising, there was swelling, there was marks on the legs, there was skin missing off the top of the neck.
I felt terrible. I've never seen anything in my entire career. I've never seen anything like that. I wasn't prepared. I was speechless.
Today in testimony, his grandfather said that he and his wife, the grandmother, had this little boy in their custody for almost 8 years. And then mom came, his daughter, and said, I want him back. Robert Fernandez told the court today that listening to that 911 tape, hearing the voice of his late wife, and knowing that they were talking about his 8-year-old grandson, Gabriel Fernandez, was just too much.
He had sworn that he was going to bring Gabriel back, and he did it.
He was talking about the defendant in this case, Isaro Aguirre. Fernandez told the court that he and his late wife, who died of complications from diabetes 8 months after Gabriel died in May of 2013, had raised Gabriel for nearly 8 years. They thought they had complete custody of him. Thought they did.
And the deputy said no. I don't know what he started talking about. We had to go to court.
He was talking about the night deputy sheriffs went to his house and told him and his wife that they could not get Gabriel back. His daughter and her boyfriend had taken Gabriel, and they wanted him back. And they were told that the document that Pearl Fernandez had signed, relinquishing custody, was not valid, and that the mother was entitled to have her son back.
That she had the legal right to revoke that at any time.
Sheriff Detective David Nisenhoff, who was there that night, explained to the jury what he told the grandparents, that they could not keep Gabriel. Gabriel then moved in with his mother and her boyfriend, and Fernandez said he saw very little of him over the next 8 months, 2 or 3 times at the most, because his daughter wouldn't allow it. And then he said he made a promise to Gabriel.
One of these days, Spring, let him come home. And I promise that to him.
Told him it was an accidental death.
Secretly recorded in the Antelope Valley Jail, Pearl Fernandez demanding answers from defendant Isaro Aguirre. She has seen the autopsy of her 8-year-old son, Gabriel.
He suffered from a brain concussion, like it was cracked. And I was told it was from cardiac arrest.
Her questions, not about how it happened, but how much Aguirre had spilled to detectives.
You know why they got that murder charge on me? Because you said I was inside the home.
No squabbling, no expressions of sorrow. According to prosecutors, it's another reason Aguirre should be put to death.
No cameras allowed in the court today as the older brother of Gabriel Fernandez took the stand. He's now 16 and was identified only as Ezekiel. He was shown the cabinet that Gabriel was forced to sleep in night after night. He called it the box. Question. Do you remember seeing the defendant and your mom put Gabriel in the box? Yes. It would put handcuffs on the door to the box. What else? they would wrap a bandana around his mouth. Sometimes they would put a sock in his mouth. He told the jury about the beatings Aguirre would give his little brother with a belt. My mom's boyfriend hit him with a belt, he said. The metal part. Where? In the arms, legs, back. Sometimes he used a metal hanger. How often? A lot. He then said one time Aguirre hit him with a bat. I saw his teeth get knocked out. I saw lots of blood. And he told the jury how he saw Aguirre shoot his little brother over and over with a BB gun. Question: did you see the defendant shoot Gabriel? Yes. Where? In his legs and arms. What would Gabriel do? Scream and cry. Where else did the defendant shoot Gabriel? In the groin. During his entire testimony, Ezekiel, who was 12 years old when he witnessed all this, never once looked over at his mother's boyfriend. He said he's trying to forget what he saw. And then he told the jury, quote, "The defendant ruined my life. I want to get past it."
My mom and her boyfriend made Gabriel eat spoiled stuff or expired stuff. One thing I remember is expired spinach. He threw it up and they made him eat it off the table. The prosecutor asks, did the defendant make him eat throw up? Ezekiel answers yes. Ezekiel said Aguirre and his mom threatened him with the same abuse if he told anyone or did anything to stop them, and said Aguirre and his mom told him to lie about Gabriel's injuries, saying they happened while he was playing. Ezekiel testified that Gabriel was not given any toys and not allowed to play with friends. Ezekiel also said he didn't know why Gabriel was beaten, abused, and treated differently. Throughout the 16-year-old's testimony, Azaria Aguirre remained stone-faced and motionless. On the day Gabriel died, Ezekiel said he saw his mother and Aguirre hitting Gabriel until he was bleeding and then dragging the boy into their room and closing the door. Ezekiel said he heard screams and bangs, and then everything went quiet. The prosecution played for the court the recorded interviews of defendant Azaria Aguirre, also known as Tony, conducted by sheriff's detectives in the hours after Gabriel was rushed to the hospital.
So, exactly what happened. Cold hard fact now. I've seen him. You said, I don't know what it is. Okay? And what did she hit him over the head with? Your fist. How many times? Maybe 10 times with your fist to the head. So those attempts were not over the head.
In the recordings, Aguirre describes how Gabriel made him mad, saying the 8-year-old told his mother, Pearl, that she should leave Aguirre. In the recordings, Aguirre states that he lost control, even admitting that he hit Gabriel harder than he has ever hit anyone before.
So you pick him back up and you hit him again, okay? How many times did you do that? You had to knock him down and pick him up? 4 to 5 times.
Aguirre admits at one point losing count. In their cross-examination, the defense played the video recording of Aguirre's interview with detectives. Aguirre describes trying to revive the 8-year-old when he stopped breathing.
When I took him out, Aguirre had, bubbles or air bubbles in his lungs. So I know what I told her, give me the phone so I can find out more, and she did. So I have a speaker, tell me to convert you to the CPR.
The prosecution, however, fought back in their redirect.
Even based on that last interview, did you believe the defendant was telling the whole truth about everything that he did?
No.
Criminalist Tiffany Hsu described while the jury looked at photo after photo of bloodstains and indentation marks on the walls.
The yellow arrows indicate bloodstains that I had tested. They tested positive for blood.
You previously used red. Why did you use yellow here?
I changed to yellow because I ran out of red stickers.
Hsu did DNA tests on items in the home with blood on them, including a wooden club, a black bat, and a data cord. She says his DNA was also found inside the cabinet prosecutors say Gabriel was locked in for hours with no food or water or access to the bathroom, bound and gagged.
The red sticker arrows indicate red-brown stains that I had tested for blood. They were positive for blood.
On cross-examination, Hsu told the jury a blue bandana and socks that may have been used to gag the boy did not contain his saliva. The last witness on the stand, Stephen Schliebe, the now retired criminalist, testified his job was to compare a cat litter sample to the contents of Gabriel's stomach under a microscope.
And that same material was also what composed the gray particles from the stomach contents.
So they were similar?
Yes, I could not tell them apart.
This tells me that Gabriel's rib cage has been struck by blunt force multiple times from multiple different directions over a period of weeks.
On the stand today, Gabriel's first grade teacher, she spent the most time with Gabriel and said that he opened up to her about the abuse he was experiencing at home. Written in the shaky, unsure handwriting of a first grader, Gabriel's teacher reads a note she found hidden in the 8-year-old's desk a few days after she learned of his brutal death.
I love you, Mom, and Gabriel is a good boy.
Jennifer Garcia said Gabriel confided in her early on in the school year, telling her he was beaten at home. Garcia immediately reported this to the Department of Children and Family Services.
He's like, well, sometimes my mom makes me bleed. And I said, well, where do you bleed? And he said, well, on my body. Because she hits me with a belt. And he's like, you know that part with the metal on it? He's like, that part.
Over the next few months, Garcia said she saw repeated bruises, burns, wounds, and other injuries on the boy, and said in at least one instance, Gabriel came to school wearing girls' clothes. Defendant Isario Aguirre remained emotionless with his eyes on the table in front of him as Garcia described seeing Gabriel become more withdrawn and lash out in anger when questioned about his injuries.
Are you sure that that's what really happened? And then he did eventually tell me, and he was like really angry, and he said, well, it's because my mom shot me in the face with a BB gun.
Garcia said she called DCFS multiple times and then realized Gabriel was suffering more abuse because of it.
A metal baton and wooden bats. Aguirre's trial revealed that Gabriel would be beaten anytime social workers would ask questions about his injuries.
I didn't want to call. I didn't know what to do. I don't know. I could look at his face and, not be able to assure him that that wasn't going to happen again when I couldn't say that.
When Gabriel was absent for several days, Garcia was told he had been sent to live with family in Texas. The teacher hoped this was true. Roughly a week later, Gabriel was dead.
Today, the prosecution rested its case against Aguirre, closing with a detective who listed all the items Aguirre allegedly used to hurt the boy, along with a bat and a club.
2 pairs of handcuffs were recovered.
Yes.
Some metal BBs that were in a plastic container that was recovered.
Yes.
BBs, which were found embedded in the child's body. 9 metal pellets in his neck, face, lung, legs, buttocks, foot, chest, and groin. Earlier, the jurors heard Aguirre in his own words, calling 911, explaining that Gabriel fell unconscious while playing with his brother. That call came after Aguirre said he had first tried first aid, spraying Gabriel with water.
He said, hey, he's unconscious. So I took him to the shower for cold water, and right now I picked him up, and he didn't
She found a BB that was lodged in his foot.
After a parade of witnesses told the jury about the torture and the bruises and injuries they found on the body of 8-year-old Gabriel Fernandez, after his grandfather wept on the stand, it was the defense's turn to put up their case. The jury saw a video of 37-year-old Isario Aguirre, the defendant, crying when he was being questioned the night that Gabriel died. The defense claims that during this interview, Aguirre kept asking detectives, how's Gabriel doing? Can I go see him at the hospital? He kept asking that over and over again. The defense contends that this is important because it shows that Aguirre cared for the little boy. Sure, they claim, he did beat up Gabriel. He did hit him. He did kick him. But
He never meant for Gabriel to die.
that's what Aguirre's attorney told the jury during opening statements, that Aguirre did commit murder. But he also told the jury that the special circumstance of torture, which could lead to the death penalty, does not apply here because Aguirre did not intend for Gabriel to die. According to sources, right after Aguirre was arrested, he told detectives it was all Miss Fernandez. She was the one that tortured 8-year-old Gabriel, not him.
Today, the defense called the paternal grandparents of the 8-year-old victim. The couple in Texas had no knowledge of Gabriel's abuse, but they did know how his mother Pearl treated another son, Arnold, testifying that Pearl didn't want the 4-year-old, so she gave him away.
She told us that she did not love Arnold because she suffered so much during his delivery that she did not love him.
Through an interpreter, Rodrigo Contreras said they never saw Pearl hit any of her children, but he and his wife saw signs.
I saw a couple of times
a couple of bruises on Arnold.
4 witnesses standing by this morning to testify that Aguirre had difficulty with simple tasks when he worked at a McDonald's, that he was easily duped, that he was a D student who failed the 9th grade and later dropped out. The court disallowed those witnesses because the defense had no expert to testify that Aguirre's slowness was a factor in how he treated Gabriel. The judge admonished the defense. The lawyers had 3 years to find such an expert and didn't. No more witnesses, no hearing until Monday when the defense is expected to rest and the jury will hear closing arguments.
There is evil in this room right now, and it's right over there. A bandana was over his face. His ankles were handcuffed. That was old and new hematoma. Bleeding in the brain caused from blunt force trauma. His hair was actually physically removed or pulled out of his head. He was belittled, bullied, and called gay. His teeth were knocked out. Gabriel was dying. They were killing him. That's intentional murder by torture. The defendant actually liked torturing Gabriel. He got off on it. He got off on it. And when you think about all the evidence, I know it's hard to believe that. It is hard to believe that, but he did. The defendant took everything from him. Everything. And the last thing he saw was the defendant standing over him, punching him, kicking him, calling him gay, and beating him to death. Hold him responsible. It ends here. It ends now with you, the people.
A decision to kill made rashly, impulsively, or without careful consideration is not deliberate and premeditated.
Guilty of the crime of murder in the first degree. We further find the allegation that said murder was committed intentionally and involved the infliction of torture.
Isaro Aguirre, now a convicted man facing the possibility of the death penalty, never made a move, never looked anywhere but straight ahead, never flinched, never shed a tear.
It was during the trial that evidence came out that every time Gabriel was beaten, they kept saying that you're no good, you're not worth living, you're a bad boy. That's the note, I'm a good boy. What happens next? They take a break, same jury, 7 women, 5 men. They now begin what is called the penalty phase.
It caught me really off guard was that just the way he was being held.
Veteran paramedics shocked, first seeing the head-to-toe injuries on 8-year-old Gabriel Fernandez.
I've never seen it. I've never seen a kid that was that abused.
Then how little the defendant, Isaro Aguirre, seemed to care. The way Aguirre handed him over to first responders.
Like he didn't want any part of it, like away from his body, and his body was flailed back and his head was flailed back and arms were wide open.
It didn't have to happen, says the prosecutor, showing these pictures. Then the betrayal, the jury viewing a note Gabriel left behind. I love you, Mom. Gabriel is a good boy. What Aguirre deserves now, says the prosecutor.
The only just and appropriate penalty that this defendant should receive is nothing less than death.
Aguirre's defense tells the jury consider Aguirre's whole life, that he was mentally slow, easily manipulated, and had no history of violence until he moved in with Gabriel's mother, that she's combative even now.
Including an assault on a custodial officer, resulting in the filing of felony criminal charges by the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office, and a separate incident where she fought with another female inmate.
Gabriel's father was in the courtroom today. He stormed out when some of the grisly photos of his son were on display. He will be back tomorrow to take the witness stand. Arnold Contreras testifies that the death of his son changed his life and the lives of Gabriel's siblings.
The family will never be seen. Everybody was affected by.
Contreras says he is racked with guilt. He was serving time, unable to watch over his son.
Helpless, guilty. I should have been there.
Had he been able, he would have stopped Gabriel's mother, Pearl Fernandez, and her boyfriend, Isaro Aguirre, from taking Gabriel from the grandparents who adored him.
Pearl never showed any type of love towards Gabriel.
Isaro's life is now in your hands, ladies and gentlemen, and I am pleading for his life.
The defense making its final plea for Isaro Aguirre.
If Isaro is sentenced to death,
this family will be devastated.
Urging the jury to see more than just Aguirre's abuse and murder of Gabriel, the defense describes Aguirre's work at an elderly home and insists life in prison is punishment enough.
A sentence that punishes his sorrow for what he did to Gabriel, but also shows compassion to his family, is true justice in this case.
These words coming moments after the prosecution's searing arguments for the death penalty.
No human with a heart and soul could do that to an innocent little boy, and no human with any goodness in them can do that to a helpless little child.
The prosecution once again showing the court graphic pictures of Gabriel's injuries.
Sarah Aguirre punched Gabriel so hard that the skin came detached from his cheek, from his chin, from his mouth.
And reminding jurors of the last violent day of Gabriel's life.
It's another day where nobody saved Gabriel. It was another day where nobody heard Gabriel's cries or Gabriel's screams, with the exception of the defendant.
We, the jury in the above entitled action, having found the defendant, Isara Aguirre, guilty of the crime of murder in the first degree, and having found the special circumstance to be true, fix the penalty at death.
The mother at the center of one of the most horrific child abuse cases in LA County has cut a deal with prosecutors.
Is that correct, Defendant Fernandez?
Yes.
And with that soft yes, 34-year-old Pearl Fernandez, the mother of 8-year-old Gabriel Fernandez, pleaded guilty to willfully and knowingly killing her son and torturing him.
Do you fully understand the plea?
Yes.
By pleading guilty and not having a trial, Ms. Fernandez will not face the death penalty. Her plea agreement stipulates that she will never file an appeal and she will spend the rest of her life in state prison. No chance at all of parole.
I knew in my heart that she was doing what he said she was doing.
Jennifer Garcia, Gabriel's second grade teacher, recalling a parent-teacher conversation she had with Pearl Fernandez in the fall of 2013.
We're talking about, his reading level or something, or, his report card. And she said, because I don't hit my kids. And she said, because I don't hit my kids, I make them do exercises.
But the evidence does show, and now Ms. Fernandez admits it, she did hit Gabriel over and over again.
You just keep your voice up so everybody can hear you. All right.
I want to say I'm sorry for my family, for what I did. I want to say I'm sorry for what happened. I wish they were not alive. Every day I wish that I made better choices. I'm sorry to my children. I don't want them to know that I love them. And I hope one day they will forgive me. And I hope one day they will come to repentance. Come to me. I wish I could save you. And to the Ronzo family, they've never known my son. And they just want some fame on news because they only went to a certain party only. So when they talk about Gabriel, it hurts me more because they do not know him. And that's what I'm thinking. God bless everybody.
As I stated, next week, June 17th, it'll be 20 years that I've been on the bench. Generally, I have imposed a lot of sentences in the course of those 20 years. And generally, it is my practice not to comment on a lot of cases. But, I was privy to this case. I sat through it. I heard the evidence. I was privy to the photographs, coroner's photographs, the extent of the injuries and what have you. And this almost demands that comment be made about this case. It goes without saying that the conduct was horrendous, inhumane, and nothing short of evil. The repeated beatings, burning, starving, binding, shooting Gabriel with BBs that were embedded in different parts of his body, knocking his teeth out with a bat, locking him in a dark cabinet while he's bound, and starving this poor child. It is unimaginable the pain that this child probably endured. And from what I heard, Gabriel was a kind, loving individual who just wanted to be loved. And so, you want to say that the conduct was animalistic, but that would be wrong. Because even animals know how to take care of their young, some to an extent that they will sacrifice their own lives in caring for their young. I remember seeing years ago a report on the news and this at least sent the point home to me about animals. And there was this cat who had given birth to a litter of cats, and the house wherein the kittens were in was on fire. And that's what I think it made the news, because the fire department was trying to put the fire out, but each time the mother went in to retrieve a kitten, and she would emerge from the house by the scruff, holding the kitten by the scruff, and would manage one by one to bring him or her to safety. And the last time, the house was lost, and the fire department tried to keep this cat from going into the house, but it managed to elude them, went into the house, and they thought, well, she's lost. And I never forgot thinking that she made it out of the house. She had the cat by the scruff, except that she was singed, burning her face. But the thing that really struck me was the cat was not blind. The intensity of the heat burned her eyes, but she never let go of that kitten. And so when you want to say, first instinct is to say, you know what, this is animalistic. No, it's beyond animalistic, because animals know how to take care of their young. You know, I can only wish, I really do, that you both, in the middle of the night, you wake up and you think of the injuries that you subjected this poor young man, this poor 7-year-old, and that it tortures you. I rarely say that. I rarely say that. It'll be a different type of torture, because you won't be in pain, physical pain. But I'm not capable, I'm not sure that you're capable of doing that. But that's my wish.
Spend all your time waiting for that second chance, for a break that would make it okay. There's always some reason to feel not good enough, and it's hard at the end of the day. I need some distraction. Oh, beautiful release. Memories seep from my veins. Let me be empty. Oh, and weightless, and maybe I'll find some peace tonight. In the arms of the angel. Fly from this dark, cold hotel room, and the endlessness that you fear. You are pulled from the wreckage of your silent reverie. You're in the arms of the angel. May you find some comfort here. So tired of the straight line, and everywhere you turn, there's vultures and thieves at your back. Stone keeps on twisting. Keep on building the lies that you make up for all that you lack. Don't make no difference. Escaping one last time. It's easier to believe in this sweet madness, all this glorious sadness that brings me to my knees. In the arms of the angel, fly away from here, from this dark, cold hotel room. right here.
Good gosh. Okay, I did not know I was on mute. So here, yeah, Andrea, I got it. I saw your message. Okay. So what I was saying is that song gets to me every time. And Freckle Joy, you said you lived there. And what I was trying to show was the tree and the murals that they made for him. So here's one of the murals. Here is another one. It's not the best picture. It's kind of blurry. But here's the tree outside the apartment building that he lived in. And this tree, this is now known as Gabriel's tree. And there's a lot more stuff around it and on it. Sorry, I was muted there, guys, and didn't realize it. But I encourage all of you to go and watch the Netflix series. Yeah, they're still there. And like I said, it's still there. There's a plaque on it. It's called Gabriel's Tree. There's many, many more things on the tree and around the tree now. Yes, this child was failed in so many ways. It isn't even funny, and that teacher, she did what she could. And at the time, all she could do was report it. There was nothing else she could do. She had to send them back home. She couldn't keep them. Yeah, there's a Snoopy piggy bank. The Netflix series is called The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez. So right up here, this is what it looks like. It's a multi-series part, but it shows what these kids go through. And Gabriel's story was just the first in this area. And Freckle Joy can attest to this. Shortly after Gabriel, there was another little boy that died. And then I believe there was a little girl that died from the same area. Yes, you will cry your eyes out. But it makes you, it's one of those, we're into true crime, but there's a lot of things that we don't realize, and how it all worked out and what the teacher had to go through. I mean, they take you through that. You see that. You hear her, not only on the stand, but just in interviews, talking about how it made her feel. And then you listen to the CPS workers and their supervisors and how they're not a murderer and how they should have never been brought up on charges. But yet they let this happen to this little boy. And like I said, he's not the first. It's not the first. Prisoners aren't punished. 3 meals, commissary, money, TV, fresh air, books. Yep, should be hard labor, bread and water. Well, it hasn't been all cozy for Pearl and her boyfriend. Pearl has been jumped, beaten, cut several times in jail. The mother. She went into jail acting like she didn't do any really bad crime. But one thing about the jail system is the guards are going to let you know when somebody has hurt a child. And that's exactly what they did. They waited for the right people to be around her and then said, "Oh, yeah, Miss Mighty Tough, you're in here and you tortured and abused and beat your child to death." And the other inmates went, "What?" And they took care of her a few times. And they've done the same with the boyfriend. The men have. So they're both in prison. They're never going to get out. Neither one of them. She tried. She did try. And judge kicked her to the curb and said, you are life in prison without parole. Freckle Joy says, every time I go to In-N-Out on that side of town, I stop at his little makeshift memorial in front of his apartment building and put a quarter in his Snoopy piggy bank. Aw. I think they both should be in physical pain for the time they have left alive. I agree with you. And there's so much more that I could tell you about this story. Excuse me. But it wouldn't be the same. Didn't swallow right, sorry. I encourage you for a number of reasons to go watch this documentary. You will learn firsthand what these kids are going through, what their families around them and their teachers, classmates are going through, seeing this firsthand, him coming to school like that. You're going to see the CPS system and how it works, how it fails kids on a daily basis. They supposedly revamped the CPS after his story. No. They're still having many, many, many issues. Many, many issues. But while we've talked about what happened to him and how unfair and just wrong that it was, we got to celebrate his life. He had 8 years on this, in this earth. Olivia, what I mean is, I can tell you about his story and everything and share my thoughts, but the educational part of it, of really getting your eyes opened, is going to be to watch the documentary. That's where everything comes together when you watch the documentary and the multi-series parts. And it makes you go, oh my God, that really happens. And then you see how these kids are treated and they don't think anybody cares about them at all. He still loved his mom, yet his mom beat him. It wasn't just the boyfriend. She did it too. So tonight, I just want us to, all say, as we've got a minute to ourselves or whatever, just say a prayer for the kids in this world, because they need it. There's so many kids that are abused by their parents. And then there's so many cute kids that are abused and murdered by others. So, Olivia, yeah, you watched it. So, you know what I mean. But I want to thank you guys for joining me tonight and learning about a little boy that was taken from this world in a way that nobody should have been taken. A lot of you had said that you didn't know this story, so I'm glad that I brought it up and that we could watch that video together, because it gives you a little snippet of what happened in the docuseries. So just remember this picture, if anything, when you think of Gabriel. Just 1 second, I'm blowing it up here. Okay. So, Gabriel Fernandez, a preventable death. There were numerous people that could have helped to save him. If you see something or someone mistreating a child, call it in to police each and every time. You know, if your son or daughter comes home and says, my friend doesn't look so good, call it in. It's all we can do. You know, we're people, and there's just so much we can do as a person or a group. But if we continue to call these in, eventually it's going to make a difference. And I'm glad that the Los Angeles news reporter who found this case broke it wide open and got this on the news and had the documentary made, because those of us who are good in this world have to fight the evil and help protect these kids. So with that, I want to say thank you for joining me tonight. And I'll be back here shortly, probably Friday, depending on what happens with the weather. And we'll go through some more stuff. But thank you, everybody, for learning about Gabriel's story and for joining me tonight. I appreciate it. Have a good day. See you soon.